Alright, we're gonna do A Man Called Otto, and boy. So we got this dude named Otto. He's in his hardware store trying to get some rope. They're trying to charge him for 6 feet of rope, but he only had 5 feet of rope. It's like, he goes back to his neighborhood. He sees people keep parking without permits and stuff. They're like, yo, we're just parking for a second. We're about to leave. Person just riding his bike. He parked it over his side for a minute, whatever like that. But the thing is, they got a bike rack right there. He let them know, hey, you got bike racks here. So bottom line, he's always been very precise with everything. He ends up going to the construction spot. Turns out this is going to be his last day as a retirement. They give him some cake and he just leaves out. It's like, all right. So when he goes back at his house, we finally find out what he got that rope for. He ended up drilling a hole in the ceiling and making a noose. And I'm like, oh my God, he's about to go hang himself. But right before he does, see some new neighbors moving in. This lady by the name of Mary and Tommy. And they got 2 kids. But Tommy's terrible at parking and he almost runs the U-Haul into his house twice. It's like, what are you doing? So Otto helps him out and parks the car. So he goes back to hang himself again and he almost pulls it off. But the problem is, the hook ended up breaking through the ceiling and he ends up falling to the ground. So he got lucky there. So he sees this ad for some flowers. He puts it in his pocket. Marie ends up knocking on the door. She's so happy and jitter and everything. Like she's the complete opposite of Otto. But they're this Mexican family, but she came from El Salvador, and her husband Tommy came from like Anaheim, yeah, California. And Tommy needs to fix up something in his house, so he asks for a Alvin wrench. He was like, you mean an Allen wrench? Yeah, Otto corrects them on like everything. Later on, he ends up going to the garage to get this Allen wrench. And there's this stray cat that's always just sitting there. It's always sitting in front of his house. His interaction with the cat is funny. He goes back in the house and chills. After that, he ends up seeing this book, right? And we had this flashback about this lady named Sonia. Now, who's Sonia? I'll tell you about her in a minute. He ends up seeing this UPS truck and tells it to get going. You know what I'm saying? Then he sees the name of this company that's supposed to be building housing developments. It's called Die and America. America. I was like, wow. Like it's 2 separate names. DYEMERIKA. I was like, really? That's a crazy ass 2 names to be putting towards a housing company or whatever like that that's trying to take over another housing company. It's like, wow. So the story behind that is that housing development that they're in, they built all that stuff from the ground up. It's like their own little community. Who's they, you ask? So it gets to a point where it's snow outside, and then Tommy and Marie come by again. And Tommy needs a ladder so he can fix something in the window. He can't fix it from the inside. He's got to fix it from the outside for some reason. I don't know what the deal is with that. So while Otto's getting them a ladder, all of a sudden their other neighbor, Anita, comes by. Now, Anita needs Otto's help with the radiators being fixed or whatever like that. So basically, he's going to tell her just to bleed out the radiators. But then Marie is like, go over there and help Anita with the radiators. Now, the thing is, her husband, Ruben, would usually do that. But considering his later over the years, he's gotten like a vegetative state. He really can't do a whole lot of nothing. So Anita basically just takes care of Ruben. So while he's fixing the radiators, he's having like a conversation with Ruben. The thing is with Ruben, he's sitting in a chair. He really can't respond back with anything. But the thing is, Otto reminded Anita that he had left the hose there like a while ago or whatever, so he gets the hose back, but right when he's about to leave, all of a sudden Ruben grabs the hose, trying to make sure he doesn't leave or whatever, but then he eventually lets go of the hose. Ruben ain't stupid, he know what's up. So let me see Otto later on, he gets some flowers or whatever like that. Remember when I told you had the coupon where you got those flowers to put on Sonia's grave? Yeah, that's right, Sonia's done passed away. So the backstory on Otto is when he was younger, right, he wanted to enlist into the military, but he couldn't because he has like an inflamed heart or a large heart or whatever. It would be too much of a risk to have him in the military, so instead, he ends up going back to Pittsburgh. So anyway, he's getting on the train, he sees this lady running past or whatever like that, she drops her book. This lady happens to be Sonia. So he goes all the way on the other side so he could get this lady her book, but the train is already coming, so basically he sneaks on the train, and then he gives her a book. And then that's when they get to talking. Now, while they're talking, the conductor's trying to get the tickets or whatever like that, but it turns out he's supposed to have a ticket going the other way. So he's got to pay the conductor $1.75 so he get off at the next stop. He's got $1. She comes up with the rest of the change. And he doesn't having a quarter to spare, but he's like, oh, this is a 1964 silver dollar quarter or whatever like that. So it's got sentimental value because Sonia gave it to him. There's a scene about that that's funny that's going to come up in a minute, but yeah. So back to the ladder thing, we found out that Tommy ended up falling off the ladder and Marie needs his help. Marie needs Otto to take Tommy to the hospital or whatever like that. And she's like, well, why you can't drive? She's like, I don't really have my driver's license. So she drives them all to the hospital. Otto ends up watching after the kids while Marie goes to see what's up with Tommy. They get him to read this like little bear book while they're waiting. And all of a sudden this clown comes out of nowhere trying to do magic tricks, right? Yo, this part's so funny. Otto ends up giving him a coin so he could do the magic trick, which ends up being the 1964 coin. He does a bad trick, make the coin disappear, that pops out his ear, you know what I'm saying, that old school magic trick or whatever like that. But it turns out that's a different quarter. So Otto gets pissed off at the clown, was like, yeah, what's my 1964 quarter? He ends up beating up the clown until the clown pops out the fucking quarter. But it's got sentimental value. He's like, yo, fuck that shit. I want my goddamn quarter. So anyway, Tommy's fine, but he's on crutches. He's got a, a swollen ankle or something like that. They pick him up and they take everybody back home. Oh, there was something I forgot to mention before all that happened, right? So Otto tried taking his life again. Like, he had the garage closed, he was in the car, whatever like that, and he tried to make sure when the car was on, he put the hose inside the car to get the carbon monoxide, the poison or whatever like that. But right before that happened was when Marie started banging on the garage door, and that was at the point where she was telling Otto about Tommy falling off the ladder. Then we get some more backstory on Sonya. Turns out we get the scene where they end up going on a date, Otto and Sonya. So he orders like this little dish or whatever like that while she's ordering food. But the thing is, she's like, well, why you didn't order any food? He says he ate at home. And he tells his guy to look for a job because, you know what I'm saying, he couldn't get enlisted into the army. So he's thinking he embarrassed himself. He's about to leave, but then she grabs his arm and then kisses him. So yeah, they definitely a thing now. Then we get to the scene where she graduated from college or whatever like that. He's so happy for whatever, and he asks her he pretty much proposes to her, and she's like, yeah, she gets married. They're sitting right in the car. Now, back in real time, he's come out the house, he sees a paper delivery person, you know what I'm saying, just delivering newspapers on his bike or whatever. Turns out this person's a transgender named Malcolm, right? Now, why is he so concerned about Malcolm? Because he tells her he used to be one of Sonya's students. That's how he knew about Otto in the first place. He or she, I'm terrible with this stuff, you already know this. So Otto's like, why are you over here delivering newspapers? You could be doing multiple jobs. And then he tells him, he's like, well, I got 2 jobs, so how's this one? He's like, oh, okay. Then he's looking across the street, seeing Tommy trying to park cars again. He's like, I had enough of this. So Otto's like, look, he's basically going to teach Marie how to drive. But he got her driving his car, you know what I'm saying? So basically, he got a stick. So he's teaching her how to drive a stick. It's going terrible at first until this rude guy with a truck keeps honking at her or whatever like that. And Otto's had enough. He gets outside the car, gets that clown to fall back, and then he gets back in the car. So I guess that was a way to calm her down, and then she was able to just drive straight. They end up stopping into this bakery, and then she's like, well, how you know about this place? She was like, yeah, Sonya introduced him to the place years ago. Then it gets to a point he drops Marie back off at the house, and he ends up going to this train station. But he's going there for the sole purpose to get hit by a train, but right before he's about to jump, this old man accidentally falls on the train tracks. So now he's got to pick him up, he saves his life, he gets him back on the rail or whatever. And then Otto's ready to just stand there and let the train hit him, so I'm like, oh shit, this is really about to be it. Like, who's going to save him? Then this random dude comes out of nowhere like, hey, get up here, we will pull you. And he pulls him back up off the train. Everybody's pulling out their phones, doing their social media stuff. It's like, oh my god, this guy's a hero, you know what I'm saying? But he ain't worried about none of that, he's just ready to get up out of there. Then when he gets back to the house, all of a sudden this social media journalist come up there by the name of Sherry, whatever like that. She wants to hear his story. But he ain't trying to do none of that. But anyway, she still gives him a business card anyway. So he's just thinking to himself, what the hell's a social media journalist? He's so old school, it's great. Then there was a part with snow on the ground again or whatever like that. But the cat that's always messing with him, he's like laying in the snow. It's like, damn, you think he's about to be damn near dead. I forgot to mention this dude by the name of Jimmy that's always doing like his cardiovascular workouts or whatever like that. But he sees the cat and he's like, oh man, come on, Otto, we gotta help the cat out, right? So they go in the house and get some blankets. He's like, why is it so cold in here? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part. So towards the beginning when he went back at the house the first time, he had actually called up the electric company. He wanted to get the electricity and the gas cut off in his house because he had no use for it or whatever like that. That's when he was about to use the rope. So basically when they go in the house, they cut the oven on, you know what I'm saying? So they get some heat going. And then Jimmy starts shielding the cat under his jacket, you know, get the body heat going and whatnot. So Jimmy ends up taking the cat home, but then we find out he has to bring the cat back, and then Otto it takes it into Otto's care because Jimmy finds out he's allergic to cats, and Marie can't take it because I think she or her kids are allergic to him too. So now Otto got a cat that lays next to him in bed. So every now and then the Die America people keep coming through, whatever like that, and they keep letting them know we're gonna take over this property eventually and whatnot. And they tell him like, yeah, you ain't gonna be able to stay here long. We know about you and your little heart condition. I'm like, wait a minute, how the fuck does a housing company give private records to health conditions? I'm like, the fuck? And you know Otto wasn't going to give it to him, so I'm like, what? That's going to come up in a minute too. And him and Marie get into some type of argument. I forgot what it was about. While he's doing that, it looks like he's having trouble breathing or whatever like that. So he ends up going back in the house. And then Marie's trying to make sure she's alright. She's like pounding on the door or whatever like that, but Otto's not answering the door. Then he ends up going upstairs in the attic. He ends up finding his gun. I'm like, oh shit. He puts the bullets in the chamber, looks over at the crib, and now we get another backstory. We see Otto and Sonya chilling at Niagara Falls, right? They're just enjoying the view and everything like that. But when they get back on the bus, we see that Sonya is pregnant at this time. That's why there's a baby crib in the attic. So Otto at that time goes to use the bus on the bathroom. All of a sudden, next thing you think is the whole fucking bus is flipping around like... I'm like, oh shit. A lot of people died on the bus. A lot of people were injured. He finds Sonya, but unfortunately, I mean, she was able to live through or whatever when they got to the hospital, but unfortunately, she lost the baby. We're still not sure exactly when she died yet, because I don't think she died right then and there. So he's got all these covers set up in the living room, right? He sits in the chair and like he's ready to pull his gun on himself, right? And then like Sonya comes to him in a vision and tells him like, you got to keep living. I'm like, oh shit. Then he hears banging on the door, then the shot goes off because he accidentally missed himself. So he's thinking it's Marie again. Turns out it's Malcolm. So basically Malcolm needs a place to stay for a day or two. So he's thinking to himself like, why you can't go home? Well, it turns out his father kicked him out because he couldn't deal with the fact that his son is transgender now. So he lets him stay on the couch. Next morning, Malcolm wakes up and fixes some breakfast and eggs and coffee and stuff like that in the morning. So next morning he goes outside, he ends up talking to Jimmy because Jimmy's always approaching him and whatever like that. It turns out the Dyke in America dudes are going to come by today so they could take Ruben out of the house and put him in like a nursing home, and Anita can go in there too. I'm like, wow. So apparently they supposedly have some type of agreements to be able to get him up out of there, right? So he goes over to Anita's and gets all the information that he can because he's going to try to make some calls and get this shit straightened out. So he ends up going to Marie's house so he could use her phone, but Marie is pissed off because she didn't know what he was going to do when he locked her out, whatever like that. Turns out she waited out there the whole night for him, yo. So she's like, why you got to use a phone anyway? Why's your phone disconnected? He tells her the reason, she ends up letting him in. So while they're in there, he pretty much bears his soul, whatever like that. Tells her the backstory about Sonia, everything that happened with the baby. Turns out Sonia actually died 6 months ago from cancer. And he tells her he'd been wanting to kill himself just so he could be with Sonia. And now he's starting to see things a little bit differently because of, obviously, Maria, you know, helping out and doing whatever like that. And he feels like he's still got things to do while he's only here on Earth, especially for the neighborhood, right? So all of a sudden, the Dyke in America people come through. They try to get him out of there, but bottom line is, Otto had a plan. Jimmy got recorded footage of them trying to kick people out the homes. And then the social media journalist, Sherry, came around there and started recording them too and asking them questions about how they getting all this private health information and shit. And of course, they're looking stupid. They chased them up out of there. Because apparently her stuff is seen by millions of people and whatnot. So obviously, they won't be on there looking stupid. Die America, stop playing with my niggas. So they stay in the neighborhood, but all of a sudden, Otto, his heart was messing with or whatever like that. He ends up collapsing. So Marie ends up taking Otto to the hospital, and then they tell her about the situation or whatever like that. He's like, yeah, he's got rhythm choreography or whatever like that. Basically, he has a enlarged heart. So Marie knows it's a serious situation, but then all of a sudden she just starts laughing it off because she's thinking about his personality or whatever like that. He's like, really, a large heart? At the same time, while that's going on, all of a sudden her water breaks. We're like, oh shit. So we get to later on, we find out, you know what I'm saying, Maria's got 3 kids now, 2 girls and a boy. Otto's over at their house, they celebrating. She got a little bit of a family there, whatever like that. So Otto's present to her, he ends up giving her the crib that he had in the attic. And he's basically dedicated himself to living and helping out people in the neighborhood or whatever, right? So we get to this one point where we see Tommy, Marie, and all the kids, they're sitting around eating or whatever. And he goes over to look outside just to look at Otto's yard. And he's over there because it's snow on the ground. He's like, wait a minute. Otto hasn't shoveled his driveway. Marie hears this and automatically rushes over there, you know what I'm saying? Because we know who Otto is. Otto times everything perfectly. He's always trying to make sure everything's good. So if he's not out there shoveling his driveway, you're like, all right, something's up. So Marie goes upstairs to his room or whatever like that, sees Otto in the bed, but it turns out he actually passed away in his sleep. So there's a letter that's actually next to his bed, right? The letter was actually for Marie. In the letter, he tells her like he just wants like a regular funeral. He gives the house and everything to her. Now at the time, Malcolm was trying to save up for like a Volkswagen or whatever, but he tells him to give his Ford to Malcolm. My bad, his Chevy to Malcolm. Because Ruben was the one that was always getting Fords and Otto was the one that was always getting Chevys. He tells her he saved up enough money and basically used that for like, you know, kids' college funds or whatever. You could do whatever you want with it, do donations, whatever you want to do. And the last thing he says in the letter, because he did get like a new truck, he's like, whatever you do, don't let anybody drive that new truck, especially Tommy for that matter. And she just drives off in the truck to go back home, and that's how the movie ends. I was like, wow. So in short, honestly, it was a suicidal movie, but they did their best to play comedy into it. I mean, it's a serious movie to begin with, but it took a more serious turn halfway through. Bottom line, I say check it out, man. A Man Called Otto on Netflix. Check it out.